What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Jimmy Mullen podcast. Today, I'm going to be talking about my thoughts on Cars on the Road, the new Disney Plus miniseries. Not only that, but I'll also be talking about all the big stuff that was announced at D23, and I'll be giving my thoughts on the latest Nintendo Direct. So, if you guys are excited, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and let's do this. All right, so first up, let's talk about Cars on the Road. I figured I wanted to talk about this because, this is like the first like big Cars thing, I guess, since Cars 3, and a little bit of history with Cars for me. As a Gen Z, I have a bit of a nostalgic feel when it comes to Cars. I know a lot of people say, oh, it's like the worst thing that Pixar's ever done. And yeah, while Cars 2 is not the best movie that Pixar's ever made by any means, I'm not going to defend it and say it's the greatest thing in cinematic history or anything like that. I have big nostalgic fondness for the first Cars movie. Obviously, I don't think it's one of the best that Pixar's ever made, but it is one of my favorites. Solely for the fact that, one, it was the first movie I ever saw in a theater. I went with my mom and two of my cousins when I was like 5 years old. It was like right when the movie came out. I also have a bunch of the toys from when I was younger, and I bought a couple of them when Cars 3 came out as well. As for my thoughts on each of the movies, Cars is one of my favorite movies of all time because of the nostalgic factor of it for me. Cars 2, I did see that in theaters, and initially I was like, oh my god, that was so cool, and then I like thought about it more, and I was like, yeah, no, that was like where was Lightning McQueen like throughout that entire movie? They kind of just made it about Mater. And McQueen was just kind of like a secondary idea. And I think that's where the movie suffers. And for Cars 3, I appreciated that, we had a story with Lightning McQueen again, but it's definitely not up there with the first movie. I definitely think the first one is easily the best out of the three. I think Cars 3 is good, but not as good as Cars. As for Cars on the Road, I can't really rank it with the movies. It's kind of like its own thing. It's a bit of a continuation of what we saw after Cars 3 in regards to Cruz Ramirez being in the final episode. But, it's not something to really like write home about. Like, these are good, just little fun things. Pixar, when it comes to what they've put out on Disney Plus, other than their movies being put straight on there because Disney didn't want to deal with them not making as much money at the theater. I'm not really fond of what Disney has done with Pixar movies in the last couple of years, but I like the idea that now Pixar is free to just do these little shorts and stuff like that. I think that's pretty cool. Obviously, you can't expect them to be making like these big budget animated films every couple months. That shit takes time. So, making these shorts, I think it's a good compromise. A while back, we had Doug Days, which was like a little continuation after Up, and Up is one of my favorite movies ever. So, seeing Doug do a bunch of dog stuff was pretty great. And, little things like that. It's just, nice wholesome shit. I like stuff like that. I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. We don't need to have like a fourth Cars or a second Up movie. We can have little things like this. And I think Disney Plus is great for stuff like that. And it makes me want more. Because with a movie, you have all these expectations that it has to be better and it has to top everything that came before. But with like a little mini series or shorts like we have with Cars on the Road or Doug Days, that shit is cool. Like, it's nice and wholesome, and I appreciate that. So let's talk about each of the episodes. So, by the way, this will contain spoilers for Cars on the Road. If you haven't watched these shorts, I'm going to talk about each one. I just realized it's been 5 years now since Cars 3 came out. I feel old. That was like my end of my sophomore year that movie came out. I did like the fact that we got Owen Wilson back as McQueen. It definitely wasn't expected, at least on my part. I remember they made a bunch of Mater's Tall Tales shorts in between the release of Cars and Cars 2. And Owen Wilson did not reprise his role as McQueen in those. They had a sound-alike for those. So to see him back as Lightning McQueen for these was pretty cool. Definitely not expected, but certainly greatly appreciated. All right, so the plot of this little mini-series is that Mater has a sister, which is like new canon that we've never heard before, and she's getting married. So, Mater gets invited to the wedding, and he's a little nervous about it because, his relationship with his sister isn't the greatest, according to him. So McQueen's like, oh, that sounds really cool. I didn't know you had a sister. I don't think anyone in Radiator Springs even knows that. So then he's like, hey, how about we go on a road trip together, and we go sightseeing while we do it and stuff like that. And so they go on this road trip across these 9 episodes, and they go on little hijinks in each one. Each one has like a different topic to discuss, different themes and whatnot. All of it's all good and fun. Nothing really to write home about, but I figured I would talk about each one because there were some that were better than others. Episode 1 has an homage to dinosaur stop motion movies, or just stop motion movies in general. They go to a dinosaur museum, and Mater has a daydream where he fights off a dinosaur. So that's cool, I guess. It kind of brings up the question as to like, there's been this like whole like theory of people just looking into the Cars universe too much and being like, how does, they have all these questions about sentience and shit like that. But now there's a question about dinosaurs that were cars. So it kind of changes the Pixar theory a little bit. If you know about the Pixar theory, I'm not going to get into it. But if you know, kind of begs the question as to like, so is this in a completely different universe where cars were just always around and, there were dinosaur cars? It had me questioning a lot of things. Episode 2, McQueen and Mater stay in this haunted hotel for the night. And then McQueen, I don't know if he's dreaming or he just, starts roaming around the hotel while Mater's like the fearful one in the beginning, but it turns out he has like the best sleep of his life, and McQueen either just doesn't get sleep or he's just having nightmares or something. There's an homage to The Shining in this, which I definitely wasn't expecting. They have like a bunch of these like ghost cars in like a ballroom, and they bring them along for dancing and stuff. And then there's like these 2 little twin girls that are like like the twin girls in The Shining, but they're like cars. Instead of red rum on the door, it says race car. And that was like the first part of it. I was like, oh wait, what are they doing here? And it was just like a little fun thing. I don't know. I definitely wasn't expecting that out of this little mini series, but I'll take it. I thought that was probably one of the better ones. Episode 3 reminds me of the original storyboard for Cars that was featured on the DVD, which I watched a lot as a kid. Basically, one of the original plot lines for the movie was, and it was also narrated and put onto the DVD. McQueen gets brought into Radiator Springs, and they swap his car body for a steamroller so he can fix the road that he destroyed. And then Mac comes back, and Mater actually takes his body and goes into Mac's truck, and then it's like this whole thing where like, I can see why they didn't go with that though, because it's kind of dark, and it feels like a little too complex, because like, what, cars can like switch bodies and shit. So that was like I remember it brought me back to that. McQueen and Mater go to this like desert area, and they see a bunch of these cars doing all these stunts and crazy things, doing like modifications and shit like that. And Mater's like, I want to fly. And McQueen's like, no, don't do that. Because like they see a bunch of like corpses of cars and shit like that. And they're like, okay, like this seems pretty dark. Let's get out of here. And Mater's like, no, I want to do it. So then he gets the modifications, and then he fucking dies. And his body starts going, like his spirit starts coming out of his body. And then like, the person telling him like, this is how it ends. And he's like, no, I don't want it like he sees himself dying, and then he ends up tricking the person, and then he like goes back into his body and like saving himself. It was very bizarre. I was a little blown away by it. This series took a lot of turns that I was not expecting. I think it became a little too meta, and honestly, I don't even mind that though. I think it's the most meta the franchise has ever been. And I really appreciate that. I think they're starting to like realize like, okay, so the kids that grew up watching the first movie, they're older now, so maybe we can like make more jokes like this. Episode 4 pays homage to Bigfoot and aliens. They go into the woods and they meet these crazy people that are Bigfoot hunters, and they're like chasing after this monster truck that they think is Bigfoot. Turns out she's this girl named Ivy, and she's just all worn, and she's got leaves growing on her and shit, because she hasn't been maintained in so long. She's been living out in the woods. So McQueen and Mater, they find her and they help her, fix her up and all that. And they're like, hey, why don't you come with us and we'll help you out and all that. And I figured, okay, so she's gonna be like in every episode from now on. But then the next episode, they go to a circus. Turns out McQueen's afraid of clowns, which is something that I would have never thought. But I mean, yeah, I guess he's afraid of clowns in the circus. And, they try to bring him on. And then Ivy becomes the star of this one. She turns out that she's a natural when it comes to being in the circus. She does a trick of, being a monster truck. She does a little trick where she like hops over a bunch of cars. Her backstory was that she messed up back in the day. So then she went into hiding. But she actually successfully does it and, makes the show a lot greater. And they ask her to stay. So then she ends up staying with them. And then I was like, okay, so she's not going to be throughout the rest of this series. I figured it would be weird to just like introduce this character midway through and then just have her join them throughout the rest. But no, she stays with the circus. Episode 6, honestly, I think was the worst one. They go to this truck stop, and then all of a sudden there's like a musical with trucks. And honestly, I thought it was just Mater daydreaming, but it turns out everything was happening in real time while McQueen was in the shop looking for stuff. And yeah, I don't know. I didn't really like this one. Episode 7 has them stop by a movie set, and then McQueen gets recognized, and they want him to be a guest actor in the movie. He plays this like deputy police officer, but he's also a terrible actor, turns out. Like, he just has no charisma whatsoever, and they have to keep redoing the shot, and he can't understand why. But then Mater gets a chance, and he ends up playing the role of the president. And then midway through, all of a sudden, they just completely change the plot for the movie. So then they get dropped, and then Ivy reappears from episodes 4 and 5, and then it turns into a musical, and that's it. I don't know. I feel like these just kind of got worse as they went on. I feel like the first few were great, and then I don't know. It kind of the quality just kind of depleted. But I mean, I like the idea of being on a movie set and all that. Another thing was the director asked Mater if he's funny, and then he does the TikTok meme where he goes funny haha or funny weird. I don't know. That really caught me off guard. Episode 8, they wound up in a cult, and it turns out that this cult of these Mad Max like cars, they're trying to fight against the new modern electric cars, and then they end up going to war. And McQueen and Mater get stuck in it, and then they're like, hey, why don't we all just like get along? And they're just like not having it. And then they run away, and then it turns out, I guess, off screen, they settled their differences. They end up at a truck stop, and then they see all these electric cars and Mad Max like cars getting along and being happy together. So that was that one. That's probably the most forgettable one, in my opinion. And then episode 9, the final one, they finally make it to the wedding, and it turns out Cruz is actually related to the groom. So they have a little reunion. McQueen's asking Cruz about her racing season that she just had, because now she's a race car representing Dynaco. So, they talk about that, and then we find out Mater's sister is not even a tow truck. You wouldn't even think that they're related other than their accents. They have like a competition, I guess, to see like who can do things better and whatnot, and they settle their differences. And then McQueen's like, oh, I like this road trip, but I don't know if I can go so long with, like, I love Mater, he's my best friend, I love him to death, but like, I don't know, it's just like, I can only stand him for so long. I guess it's like a call to like the way everyone feels about Mater. But yeah, then, after, Mater and his sister settle their differences, he's like, you know what? I was wrong. Let's drive all the way back home. And we don't see any of that. And that's the end. So, I guess Cruz and Mater are now relatives through marriage. That was Cars on the Road. It exists. It's a thing. And I thought it was fine. I don't know. I feel like the episodes as they went on got worse and worse, but I think episode 9 kind of picked things up a little bit more. Yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to talk about it because it's like a new. It's not Cars 4, and honestly I hope that we don't get a Cars 4 because I don't know what the hell they'll do with that movie. But this is like a nice compromise, I guess. Nice little continuation. I hope we get more things like this with Disney Plus. I know we've had Doug Days, like I said. Also, Forky Asks a Question came out when Disney Plus first came out. So yeah, there's a lot to do when it comes to things like that. I hope they continue to do stuff like that. I hope we get something like that with Monsters Inc. I never watched the Monsters at Work animated series. Maybe I'll have to do that at some point. I guess that's kind of what we got with that. But the animation quality on that seems a lot worse. And it wasn't even done in-house at Pixar. It was like a separate animation studio. Kind of makes me wonder why they even did that. Maybe we could get something in regards to A Bug's Life, because we haven't gotten a sequel to that movie, and it's the second ever Pixar movie. So maybe they could do some little fun shorts with that. Maybe some Finding Nemo stuff. Honestly, that would have been better than making Finding Dory. Not to say Finding Dory is bad, but I feel like we didn't need a sequel to that. Maybe some Incredibles stuff, although we'll probably end up getting Incredibles 3 sooner or later. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Cars on the Road. Now, we're going to talk about D23. For those that don't know, D23 is the biannual convention that Disney holds. It's kind of like E3, but for Disney. Where they announce like a bunch of new stuff in regards to projects from all their different sub studios. So this year they had new stuff for Disney live action, new stuff for Walt Disney Animation Studios, new stuff for Pixar, Marvel Studios and Star Wars stuff. Lucasfilm had their panel. And there was a lot to discuss during this convention. I feel like the Marvel stuff was a bit underwhelming because they announced most of the new stuff at San Diego Comic-Con, and a lot of that was just like more emphasis on what they announced at Comic-Con, and not much new stuff was announced. If you hadn't been keeping up with leaks or like, headlines with, new castings and shit like that, you wouldn't have known about like Werewolf by Night and stuff like that. But like if you did, then it's like, oh, okay, so there was like nothing that we didn't know about already. But at least officially, they've announced Werewolf by Night, but we'll get to that in a bit. And by the way, I'm not going to discuss every single thing that D23 had to offer because there's plenty that I did not write down. But this is some of the stuff that really stood out to me. So I wanted to touch on some of the video game announcements that D23 had to offer. Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga is getting a deluxe edition. I forgot what it's called. I forgot to write it down. But it's going to have all of the DLC included. So if you didn't buy the season pass or if you don't have the game yet, this is probably going to be a better way to play it because it'll probably be marked at the same price that the original game was initially. I still haven't beaten Skywalker Saga. I never went back to it. Nothing against the game. I just forgot, honestly. I still have to do episodes 8 and 9. I think I was kind of waiting on doing those because I didn't want to rush through the game, but now I'll definitely have to go back to them now that I'm talking about it in this video. But a bunch of DLC was announced for the Skywalker Saga. We're getting stuff for the Bad Batch, the Clone Wars, Rogue One. Basically everything that wasn't in the first batch is coming in the second batch, which is really cool. Also, we're getting a new Marvel video game that stars Captain America and the grandfather of T'Challa, so the Black Panther that was in power during the events of World War II. So yeah, it's going to be a World War II Marvel game starring Black Panther and Captain America, and you can also play as someone in the Dora Milaje, as well as someone from the Howling Commandos. So yeah, I from what they showed, the game looks pretty cool. I'll have to check it out when it comes out. All right, now to start out with the big stuff from Pixar and Disney Animation and live action. So in the next year or so, Disney is going to be celebrating its 100th anniversary, which is pretty nuts to think about. Like Disney's been around for about 100 years, and they're celebrating big. They have a new logo that's going to be in front of all the movies for the next year. It's going to say Disney 100. So that's pretty cool. The first announcement was we got a new trailer for Hocus Pocus 2, and that's set to come out on September 30th on Disney+. I just rewatched Hocus Pocus again pretty recently, so I'm going to have to check out this one when it comes out. Disenchanted got a new trailer and a new poster. I have not seen the original Enchanted, but I'm going to have to do so pretty soon. The movie comes out November 24th, so the week of Thanksgiving. This movie will be out. Peter Pan and Wendy got a first look. For those who don't know, this is the live-action remake that they're doing for Peter Pan. They're calling it Peter Pan and Wendy to give more light to Wendy as a character. She's going to have as much screen time as Peter Pan. They did reveal that. Jude Law is playing Captain Hook, and he also said that there's going to be more backstory in the movie in regards to showing that Peter Pan and Captain Hook were once friends. There's a new Haunted Mansion movie in the works, and the cast of that movie came out. The director of that movie was actually a Disney Parks employee, and he comes out and shows his ID card that he had, which is pretty cool. You know, seeing like someone that worked at Disney Parks now directing a Disney movie, that's actually pretty sick. Mufasa the Lion King is both a sequel and a prequel to the live action, or not really live action, but the 2019 realistic CGI adaptation of The Lion King that I think is very soulless. I did not really enjoy that movie. It took a lot of the charm out of the original movie, but it's being directed by Barry Jenkins, the guy who directed Moonlight, which won Best Picture the year it came out. I haven't seen Moonlight, but I've heard it's really good. So it's cool to see that someone, you know, who directed an Oscar-winning film, you know, for Best Picture is directing a Disney movie now. Good for him. I hope it's a lot better than the Lion King movie that we got. This is supposed to be, it takes place like after, but tells the story of what happened before. In regards to, it stars Simba's cub being told the story by Timon and Pumbaa. So Billy Eichner and Seth Rogen are both coming back to reprise their roles as Timon and Pumbaa, which is pretty sick. I always thought Seth Rogen as Pumbaa was like perfect casting. So seeing him as Pumbaa again is going to be pretty great. And I know this movie is only happening because of how much money the original made. It made like over $1.6 billion, I think. Like, it was a very successful movie, especially in China. It made a ton of money. So to see it happen isn't too surprising. The Snow White remake is in the works. It stars Rachel Zegler as Snow White, and also stars Gal Gadot as the evil queen. So that's pretty exciting. We got a first teaser trailer for the live-action Little Mermaid starring Halle Bailey, not Halle Berry. I'm sorry. I didn't realize it when I was recording. But yes, Halle Bailey is starring in The Little Mermaid. The names are so similar, I didn't even realize. I'm so sorry. Alan Menken and Lin-Manuel Miranda are making 4 new songs for this film, so that's going to be pretty exciting. Pixar's next film after Lightyear is called Elemental, and it tells the story of these 2 characters named Ember and Wade that represent fire and water, and they're in love, but they can't touch because they're 2 completely different elements, and if they touch, you know, it's not going to be good for either party involved. The next Pixar film after that is going to be called Elio, and it stars a boy who gets transported to another galaxy and is mistaken as the ambassador for Earth, which that's a pretty cool plot. I'd like to see what they could do with that. And easily the craziest Pixar announcement throughout the entire show was that we're getting a sequel to Inside Out in the summer of 2024. And I don't know. I like that we're getting a sequel, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know if do we need a sequel to Inside Out? I feel like, just like I was talking about before with Cars on the Road, I feel like, you know, we don't need a Cars 4, but I like the idea of them doing shorts and things like that. I feel like that could have been perfectly fine for something like Inside Out, but I don't know, I guess we're getting a sequel. I guess there's going to be a bit of a time jump. Riley's going to be a teenager. But the worst part about this, however, is that it wasn't obviously said at D23, but it was shown previously because this announcement was leaked ahead of time. It turns out that Mindy Kaling and Bill Hader, who played Disgust and Fear in the first movie, are not going to be returning for the second movie because Disney apparently lowballed them. They were only offered $100,000, and that just wasn't enough for them. You know, they felt like, okay, so the first movie made a ton of money, and it's become even more popular since it came out. We want more money. And, you know, corporations being corporations, they're lowballing animation, which is kind of ironic for Disney because they were pretty much built on that. But regardless of that, yeah, it looks like Bill Hader and Mindy Kaling aren't returning, and that's pretty unfortunate. I hate to see stuff like that. Riley will also have new emotions, so we'll probably get new characters played by celebrities in this film, and I'm pretty excited to see where they go with that. Disney Animation's Strange World didn't get a trailer at D23, but it has gotten one since. I haven't watched it yet, but this movie does star Jake Gyllenhaal and Dennis Quaid in the starring roles, and I don't really know much about this one, but you know, it's a new Disney animation film. I kind of go into these with an open mind now. And, you know, sometimes I'm disappointed. Sometimes I'm really pleased. I've been pretty pleased with a lot of the movies more recently. I thought Encanto was really great. I loved the original Frozen when it came out. I wasn't really the biggest fan of Frozen 2. I thought it was pretty forgettable. Honestly, I don't even remember what happens in that movie. Moana is a really great film. Big Hero 6 is really great. So I'm hoping that we get that with Strange World. There's not anything that really stands out to me yet with that movie, but who knows? I might end up really liking it. And the final thing I have here in regards to the Disney animation live action and Pixar stuff is that Wish is going to be the film that celebrates Disney's 100th anniversary. It stars Asha as the main character. That's her name. And she'll also be accompanied by a little goat named Valentino. And that's all they said. They showed a little picture, some concept art for the film. And I guess this movie is just still early in development. It's not going to be out for another year or so. But yeah, that's that. As for Lucasfilm, we got the final trailer for Andor, and the first 3 episodes are out now. I have not watched them yet, so I'm not going to be giving my thoughts on those today. But I'm really excited to check it out once I do. We got a trailer for the series Willow. I have not seen the original movie, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to now if people are saying the show is good. That show is coming out by the end of this year, I'm pretty sure. Christian Slater was also confirmed to be a part of it. Bad Batch Season 2 got an official release date for January 4th, 2023. I think it was supposed to drop by the end of this year, but it got delayed just a little bit, which is a bit unfortunate, but that's okay. If they need a little more time to make it, then, you know, that means it'll be better, hopefully. I was a pretty big fan of the Bad Batch animated series. I felt like it was a little... these characters got introduced in like a few episodes of the final season of Clone Wars, and then it was like, okay, like now they're getting their own show, which I mean, yeah, if this is a way for them to tell stories about clone troopers post Order 66, then so be it. I think for what it is, it's a pretty good animated series though. And seeing characters like Cad Bane and Captain Rex come back is also really great. And I hope we get more cameos and guest appearances like that in the second season. Tales of the Jedi is going to be a 6-episode series of shorts, 3 of them focusing on Ahsoka and 3 of them focusing on Count Dooku. It's going to tell origins of both of these characters, which I think is really cool, especially for Ahsoka. And it's going to be even cooler to see Count Dooku like younger, training with characters like Mace Windu and Yoda, before the events of Episode 2, where, he's a villain and, you don't really know much about Count Dooku. So it's going to be nice to see, the origin of that. And I think that's really cool. We get to see Ahsoka as a baby as well. There's going to be more stuff with her and Anakin, which is awesome. So yeah, I'm really excited for that. We got a first look at Skeleton Crew, which is going to be a new live-action series directed by John Watts, the guy who directed the Spider-Man MCU trilogy. He was originally set to direct the Fantastic Four movie, but I guess, he was like, I want to do other things. So Jon Favreau got him involved with directing Skeleton Crew, and we got a first look at that. Jude Law, who's playing Captain Hook in the Peter Pan movie, is also starring in this. It's going to be about him and a ragtag group of kids. I don't really know much about it other than that, but I'm excited to see where they go with that. Mandalorian Season 3 also got its first trailer. I love Mandalorian Seasons 1 and 2, so if it gives us more reason to see Mando and Grogu do fun stuff, then I'll take it. It's looking like it's going to talk a lot about, Mando dealing with the idea. It's going to delve more into the fact that Mando took his helmet off. He's going to have to face the consequences for that, which he already did partially in the Book of Boba Fett. He also has the Darksaber now, so, we're going to see how that turns out throughout the 3rd season. It looks like they're going to be going to Mandalore as well, which is awesome. We're going to finally see Mandalore in live action. I can't wait to see that. I'm so excited for Mando Season 3. I think The Mandalorian is easily some of the best Star Wars stuff that we've gotten in years. And even with the Book of Boba Fett, episodes 4 and 5 were fucking fantastic. I talked about it back in February when those episodes were coming out. In a previous episode of the podcast. But yeah, I'm super hyped for Mandalorian Season 3. Indiana Jones 5 also got a first look to D23 convention goers, and Harrison Ford comes out and he gets a little emotional talking about it. He's saying like this is going to be his final time as Indiana Jones, and seeing him get emotional about this is pretty wholesome. Also, he said the movie will kick your ass. That's his words. There's also going to be some moments with a de-aged Indiana Jones, which I'm not sure how I feel about that just yet, but hopefully they do a good job with that. Ke Kwan also was at the convention, not related to Indiana Jones 5, unfortunately. He's not going to be in that movie, but he just happened to be there because he's going to be a part of Loki Season 2. So they actually reunited him and Harrison Ford, and they took this really cool, wholesome picture, which made my heart warm up. I thought that was really cool. I think it's been 38 years since Temple of Doom came out. So seeing them together again was really cool. As for Marvel, like I said before, I was a little underwhelmed with the Marvel announcements. Most of it was stuff we already knew about, but it was kind of just giving us more information on things that had just been announced. I figured they would have saved all that stuff at Comic-Con for D23, but oh well. We got Black Panther 2 new footage of Namor fighting M'Baku. Basically, the plot of the movie is that the world is trying to capitalize on Wakanda's resources now that T'Challa is dead. A bunch of bad people are trying to get access to vibranium and shit like that. Ironheart has a new logo, which is pretty cool. That's going to take place after Black Panther 2. Because Ironheart is going to be in Black Panther 2, so we'll get introduced to that character in that movie, and then she'll go on to have her own series. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania will have direct ties to Avengers: The Kang Dynasty. Randall Park was also confirmed to be coming back as Jimmy Woo. He was previously in Ant-Man and the Wasp and WandaVision. As I mentioned before, Werewolf by Night finally got confirmed and is set to release on October 7th. It's taking a new approach, and it's paying homage to black and white monster movies of the 1930s. Which is pretty cool. It's going to be entirely in black and white, and it'll also give us, stories with werewolves, which we haven't had in the MCU yet. The group has to figure out who's the werewolf. There's a bunch of people in this secluded area, and they have to, figure out which one of them isn't human. And also, Man-Thing is going to be in it. We haven't seen Man-Thing in the MCU yet, so that's going to be pretty cool. I don't know anything about the character. I just know that he's a character that people have been wanting, and now we're going to finally get him in live action. Secret Invasion got its first trailer. This is going to be like a spy espionage type of show, and I think that's really sick. I've been wanting something like that from Marvel, and having Samuel L. Jackson as the main character, Nick Fury, is going to be amazing. I can't wait to see where that goes. Don Cheadle is also confirmed to be coming back as James Rhodey, so that's awesome. And then his appearance in that will tie directly into Armor Wars, which is going to be his own Disney Plus series, which also got a new logo, which I think is worse than the one that we got initially, if I'm being honest. Makes me hope they go back to the original one, which they did do with She-Hulk. They showed the original logo for She-Hulk, and then they changed it, and then changed it back. I kind of hope they do the same thing with Armor Wars, to be honest. Loki Season 2 got a first look, and we also got confirmation that Ke Kwan is going to be in this show. He also came out on stage and made a joke about it. He was like, "Oh, I thought this was the Indiana Jones press conference." We also got confirmation that there will be lots of action with Kang the Conqueror, which goes to show that there's going to be plenty of variants of this character throughout these new movies and shows that we're getting, because you think like the big villain for this phase, for this saga, is introduced in a Disney Plus show, but then it goes to show, there's like so many different versions of this character throughout all the different universes. So we're gonna see a lot of that in Loki, and I'm really excited to see what they do. As for Fantastic Four, unfortunately we did not get casting, which I figured we would. All Kevin Feige had to say was, they officially confirmed that Matt Shakman, the director of WandaVision, is directing the Fantastic Four movie for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I hope that means we get a good movie. I'm really excited for it. I hope we finally get a good Fantastic Four movie, and I hope the cast is really good too. We'll just have to wait and see. They also talked about Echo and confirmed that Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio are going to be coming back as Fisk and Daredevil. Really excited to see what they do with that. I'm also really excited about that for other reasons, which I can't get into right now. But I will once the show comes out. I promise you that. That was then followed up by some more information on Daredevil Born Again. They confirmed again that it's going to have 18 episodes for one season, which is crazy. All we've had so far is like 6 episodes or 9 episodes for each of the MCU shows. But this one's going to have 18, which is nuts. Charlie Cox is just really excited to be coming back as this character. Hopefully, we also get the other Marvel Netflix characters like the Punisher and Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, Luke Cage. I'm crossing my fingers for it, but I'm not expecting them to come back because I know if I do, I'm going to be disappointed. Yeah, I really got to watch these shows. I still haven't watched them. Captain America 4, New World Order also got a new logo, and they also confirmed that Tim Blake Nelson is going to be playing the leader. He was actually teased all the way back in 2008's The Incredible Hulk, so we're finally going to get an official follow-up to that. You know, they teased him all the way back in the second Marvel movie, and now he's finally going to be showing up as the villain he was teased to be in an MCU project all these years later. Danny Ramirez was also confirmed to be playing the new Falcon, so they're going to have Captain America and Falcon dynamic in this movie as well, which is pretty cool. And it was also shown that the character of Isaiah Bradley, who was introduced in The Falcon and Winter Soldier, is also coming back in this film, which is pretty sick. As for the Thunderbolts, which I'm actually really excited for, they officially confirmed the team for that movie. So Valentina is going to be like the leader of them in regards to, she's going to be like the Nick Fury. She's not the leader of the team, but she's going to be like the Nick Fury of the team. We also got shown that Ghost from Ant-Man and the Wasp is going to be in this movie. Red Guardian, played by David Harbour, of course, Hopper from Stranger Things. Yelena is going to be the leader. She's been in Black Widow and the Hawkeye series, so she's going to be the leader of this new team. Bucky Barnes, which I'm a little disappointed that he's in this movie. Like I love Bucky Barnes, don't get me wrong, but I feel like, he's been redeemed already. Like, why are you throwing him back in this, villains team and all that? Like, he deserves so much better, honestly. Also, the U.S. agent, John Walker, played by Wyatt Russell, is going to be in this as well. His new outfit and all that was teased at the end of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, so we're finally going to get follow-up for that. And the Taskmaster, who was in Black Widow, will also be in this movie. My only question is, are Zemo and the Abomination going to be in this movie? And how are they going to pay homage to William Hurt as Thunderbolt Ross? Because this movie is pretty much named after the character, so they're going to have to acknowledge the fact that he passed away. So what's the deal? What's going on with that? I guess we'll find out. And they ended the panel with talking about the Marvels. It picks up right after the Miss Marvel post-credit scene where Miss Marvel and Captain Marvel swap places. I'm actually more excited for this one than I was for the first one, because after seeing Miss Marvel and seeing Monica Rambeau and WandaVision, it gets me a lot more excited for this new movie. I hope it's a lot better than the first one, because the first movie was pretty underwhelming. And I did write down that Avatar 2 got new footage from 20th Century Studios. They had a little panel for that. I didn't really write much else other than that. But yeah, that's all the D23 stuff I wrote down. Lots of really cool announcements. I'm excited to see all of this stuff come to fruition. I hope all these new Marvel projects are great. I hope all these new Disney projects are great. I'm not really holding out much hope for the live action stuff because they continue to disappoint with mediocrity. I haven't seen Pinocchio yet, but I've heard not very good things. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. And now, let's get into my thoughts on the Nintendo Direct. If you haven't seen, I did a reaction video to the Nintendo Direct. I actually streamed it over on my Twitch, which I don't really stream very often, but you should go follow me on there, twitch.tv/JimmyRWD. I might have some stuff down the pipeline pretty soon. But whenever a Nintendo Direct happens and I'm able to, I end up streaming it. I used to just record them and then put them up, and those used to get a lot of views, which is great, but now every time I put them up, they get like nothing. Maybe just because my channel's dead or whatever, but that's just what I have to live with, I guess. As for the stuff that got announced, I'm going to rapid fire through it. Fire Emblem Engage is a new Fire Emblem game. It lets you summon classic Fire Emblem characters to help you out. It's also going to have fusions, which is pretty cool, I guess. We got looks at Marth and Celica, so that's pretty cool. It Takes Two is coming to the Switch. I haven't played that game yet, but I've heard good things. Fatal Frame Mask of the Lunar Empire is getting a Switch release, which is pretty sick. DLC is coming for Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which I haven't played yet, but I've heard good things. Fitness Boxing is getting a sequel, but it's also getting a skin for Fist of the North Star, which is such a Japanese thing. I feel like it's just like a little stupid, goofy thing that they're doing. I love shit like that. I just thought it was funny. Thought I'd throw it in there. Splatoon 3 had its next Splatfest announced. It's going to have 3 teams instead of 2. So we're having like 3-team turf wars. I haven't caught up with all the stuff with Splatoon 3. So I don't know if this was just a thing that they announced was going to be a thing. I just thought it was pretty cool. Thought it stood out. I'm going to have to play Splatoon 3 pretty soon. I haven't gotten it yet. Octopath Traveler 2 got announced, which is pretty cool. I never played the first one, but for fans of that, that's pretty exciting. There's a new Theater Rhythm Final Fantasy game that's going to have DLC for Live Alive and Octopath Traveler, which is pretty cool. Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope got some new footage. This wasn't in the Nintendo Direct, but I thought I'd mention that Rayman was also confirmed to be a part of the game, which is pretty cool. Nintendo 64, Nintendo Switch Online is getting some new games throughout the end of 2022 and the beginning of 2023. We're getting Pilot Wings, we're getting Excite Bike 64, we're getting 1080 Snowboarding, we're getting all 3 Mario Party games, we're getting Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2, and the last game they announced, which I thought was going to be like Smash Brothers or something, turns out we're getting GoldenEye 007 on this online service, and that's pretty sick. I figured, for years it was like a licensing thing. This game was never on the Wii Virtual Console. It wasn't on the Wii U Virtual Console. So to see it a part of this service is pretty cool. I don't have the expansion pass for Switch Online, so I'm not going to be able to play these myself. But it's pretty cool for people that haven't played it. I just recently got GoldenEye 007 for the N64. I haven't played it yet, but I'm really excited to do so. I've heard nothing but good things over the years. That's why I wanted to check it out. And it was a pretty big deal in the community. People were really excited about it coming to the Switch. Mario Strikers Battle League is getting Pauline and Diddy Kong as free DLC, which is actually out now by the time this video is going up. I haven't gotten Mario Strikers Battle League yet, but that's pretty cool. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe's Booster Course Pass got a tease for the third wave. We're getting Merry Mountain from Mario Kart Tour along with Peach Gardens from Mario Kart DS. That one was also in Mario Kart Wii, so I have a lot of nostalgia for it. Used to confuse the shit out of me, though, with the layout of it. I used to end up going the wrong way and stuff like that when I was first playing it as a kid. Golf for Switch Sports got delayed to the holiday season. It said it was supposed to come out in the fall, but unfortunately it's not coming out until the holiday season now. I still have my fingers crossed for baseball and boxing, though. That's all I want. Then we'll have a complete Switch Sports. They could do anything after that. I wouldn't mind, but I think we need baseball and boxing in order for it to feel complete. Also, can we get online multiplayer with private lobbies that I can just do regular bowling and not do the elimination thing? That would be great. Miyamoto came out and announced that the Mario movie is still happening and unrelated, but has been announced since the Nintendo Direct. We're getting the first trailer at New York Comic Con in 2 weeks, so I'll be talking about that in a future podcast episode. And the biggest announcement was that Pikmin 4 is finally confirmed to be coming out. Miyamoto said back in 2015 in an interview that the game was almost done. And that was 7 years ago. And, even with 5 years of the Switch being out, we still hadn't gotten an announcement or confirmation for Pikmin 4. We got Pikmin 3 Deluxe in 2021, which, was a little out of the blue, but definitely welcomed. So yeah, Pikmin 4. I'm going to finally play an entire Pikmin game now. I'm so hyped. I can't wait for this game. Bayonetta 3 got a release date of October 28th. She's now more of a hero rather than a villain, which is pretty cool. The newer Resident Evil games that have been coming out on PlayStation are getting cloud versions on the Switch. So the Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes, along with the Resident Evil Village and Resident Evil 7, they're all getting Nintendo Switch cloud versions, which mean basically you can play them, but you need an internet connection to play them because the system can't fully support these games because of how powerful they are. The Switch just isn't as powerful as the PS4 and the Xbox One. Tales of Symphonia Remastered is coming to the Switch in 2023, which is awesome. I love Lloyd Irving in Super Smash Flash, as well as the Mii costume. I know nothing about him or his game, but I just thought his character design was always really cool. And I wanted him in Smash Brothers, and I know a lot of other people did too. He got made into a Mii costume, but I feel like that alone, just the fact that they acknowledge the character, I think is really sick. So I might have to finally check this one out. I wanted to play the GameCube version, but I know that's silly expensive, and that's the way I'd rather play it, but I might have to settle with the Switch version. But hey, if it means I get to play it, then so be it. Easily one of the most surprising announcements of the Direct was that Kirby's Return to Dreamland is getting a deluxe port onto the Switch. It's also been touched up a bit. DDD has a new design, similar to his design from more recent Kirby games. I love Kirby's Return to Dreamland. I got it around the time it came out back in 2010, and I also played the shit out of it with a bunch of friends over the years. And I've always gone back to this game. I love playing it. It's so much fun. And to see it come out on the Switch is awesome. I like the new look for the game. I like the new mecha power-up that Kirby has. I'm just really excited for this game. It comes out in February. I'm gonna be probably getting it on day one. I'm so hyped for it. I can't wait to play this. Also, there were a lot of farming RPG games that were shown off, like a little too many of them. And I thought I was like the only one thinking this when I was watching it, but then after the fact, I saw tons of people just being like, what's up with all the farming simulators? What's up with all the farming RPGs? There's a lot of games that have the focus of growing crops and have RPG elements mixed in too. I mentioned this while watching it. If you go back and watch my reaction to the direct, it was a little weird. I don't know what was up with that. But the final announcement of the direct, we got a new trailer for Breath of the Wild 2, and we got a name for the game. It's called Tears of the Kingdom. So they just changed the two nouns. But yeah, I'm really excited. I didn't get to finish Breath of the Wild. I'll have to go back to it at some point. But this game comes out in May. Comes out May 12th, 2023. Yeah, I'm so hyped. I'm really hyped for this game. It looks great. And I can't wait to play it. I'm going to have to go back and finish Breath of the Wild. I really want to get into the Zelda series. It's been so hard for me to sit down and stay focused on a Zelda game. I don't know what it is. Nothing against the games. I don't know. I think I don't know. My brain's weird. But anyway, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the podcast. I'm going to be talking about more stuff in another solo episode coming out in the next couple of days. I just didn't want to overflow this with like a ton of different topics because I feel like I've been doing that lately. I feel like fleshing them out makes it a bit more engaging. So if you enjoyed this, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're listening on audio platforms, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that, leave a rating, write a review. I would really appreciate it. Be sure to follow the podcast on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. With that said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take it easy. Peace.